This is Larry Sparks from Destiny Image. We just finished filming the curriculum for Strengthen Yourself in the Lord, available as the book and an 8-session DVD series. You can use it for small groups, classes. And, Pastor Bill, I wanted to ask you some questions about really the message that birthed this book and this curriculum. Because really, in a unique way, all of your books come out of personal experience, but I feel like this book in particular, a lot of keys and tools that you learned from just going through a lot of this stuff. So what really birthed the message of Strengthen Yourself in the Lord?
I got tired of being depressed. It's weird that you have such a hunger for God, such a hunger for His promises, for what you've seen in history, that you become discouraged. And what I've noticed is that desperation can either take you into discouragement or into faith. And so for me, it would take me into discouragement. I evaluate myself. I never came out good. And it wasn't until I made a decision that I'm going to allow my ache for more to take me into the promises and figure out how to bring strength. And so that process really was the motivation. The Lord just made it clear to me. It's going to sound strange, but He made it clear to me in one particular very brief season, you're not to be discouraged anymore. And I didn't even know it was an option. And then I realized I've been making the wrong choice. He would only command that into my life if I was making the wrong choice. And so when I saw that, when that became clear, then suddenly I realized, then He's given me the tools. And so I need to figure them out. I need to find out what works.
Some people are like, I'm feeling discouraged, and it's almost like we tolerate it. We tolerate discouragement. Why is it something that really should be intolerable?
It's weird because discouragement for some is actually, it's almost treated as a virtue of humility. And it's not at all connected to humility. Discouragement leads to depression, and depression comes out of believing a lie. And so you can't, any area of our life that doesn't have hope is under the influence of a lie. So if I'm becoming more and more discouraged, it's only because I'm feeding on the wrong meal. I'm feeding myself with regret. I'm feeding myself with things that didn't work out right, instead of feeding myself on the testimony of the Lord of the promise. And so who I am is defined by God through His nature and His promise. And if I choose to take any other meal, I will end up in discouragement.
Well, it's interesting. I think one of the keys that you mentioned specifically that breaks discouragement in our lives is constantly being connected with our destiny, really a revelation of our destiny. There's a scripture that you mentioned, I believe it's in Lamentations. Can you just mention that for a minute? Why is it so important to be connected to destiny?
Yeah, it's a verse, it's a sobering verse out of Lamentations 1, it's verse 9. And it's talking about the moral downfall of Israel, and specifically Jerusalem. And it says that her collapse was great because she didn't consider her destiny. She had lost sight of her destiny. And because she lost sight of her destiny, so when you see your destiny, it brings a courage to you that makes you willing to pay a price to get there. When you lose sight of your destiny, you won't pay a price, and you end up collapsing in a very way that mirrors in darkness what God intended to do in light.
Well, I think in this curriculum, in the book, you provide people just, again, things you have that are time-tested in your own life that help us remain practically connected to that. And really to the overall destiny that God has for us in the earth. I mean, praise and thanksgiving, they help us to really be more oriented towards God than what you talk about, really the enemy of introspection, looking inside of us, because we never come out feeling good. Really, when people put the keys in this book and this curriculum into practice in their lives, what do you hope to see these things produce?
Well, people that are strong. But people who, in their strength, come into promotion. And the story that we start with in the series is David, King David, who strengthens himself through a long series of rejections, and the next scene he becomes king. So his own promotion into his destiny didn't come about until after he learned to minister to himself. And some of our futures actually withheld from us because it would destroy us. It's too much weightiness of promise, too much weightiness of glory. And it's not until we can bring strength to ourselves can we be entrusted with that measure of promotion. And so I'm looking for, first of all, healthy people but unto something. I want to see people step into the fullness of destiny for us to represent the Lord, to represent Jesus on the earth. Yeah. That's my cry.
Well, and I think that's really the balance of the message, because strengthen yourself in the Lord. Why is it so important that individually we're strong so that collectively we can be everything God's called us to be?
Exactly.
Pastor Bill, would you mind just speaking to the camera for a moment and just speaking to those who will be purchasing the curriculum or reading the book, and just letting them know what this will do for them as a group or a class going through this study?
We have seen historically through these kinds of classes that there is more than information being released. My cry, my prayer is that there would be such a release of impartation that people experience change, transformation of heart, of mind, and that this thing becomes modeled not just in one city, in one location, but in churches and homes all around the world. And I believe there's material here that can help people to really step into destiny, into promotion, and out of that place of regret, out of that place of feeding on things that didn't work well, and instead put ourselves in a place where strength becomes the norm. I do believe that's your destiny. I think that's the outcome of this series.
Thank you, Pastor Bill.
Absolutely.
Appreciate
it.
Thanks.